Well, what skills do you teach your children today to help them find work when they hit the workforce years from now? This is a big question, especially when you consider a study that predicted 1 billion jobs will be eliminated because of automation. There are 3 skills that your kids need to know now. Here to help us with that is education strategist Dwayne Matthews. Good to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
People get scared when they hear this number, 1 billion jobs eliminated. They panic a little bit. What do our kids need?
So what this really means is that our economy is shifting, and our economy is atomizing, it's optimizing, and it's going for automation, and there's also augmentation. And so a lot of people focus on automation, but I think we should really place a lot of focus on augmentation because our kids have an ability to augment themselves, and we're really raising superheroes.
But there can't be a job for every superhero. So what does augmentation mean? Like, what kind of skill set do they need to achieve that?
So one of the things that kids are going to need is they're really going to need to focus on their cognitive skills as well as their emotional skills. And this creates massive amounts of ability. Cognitive skills, we're really talking about working memory, selective attention, and focus. I noticed that one of the conversations that we're having before, we were looking at an Olympic athlete that was talking about his level of focus. So imagine if your kid could have the kind of focus like an Olympic athlete to deal with all the distractions of all the information coming in and to have emotional control. One of the apps that I use is a meditational app, a mindfulness app that really helps with emotional control.
You talk about redefining SMART. What does that look like?
So redefining SMART, again, really has to do with the cognitive abilities and the executive functions, and focusing on those executive functions and the ability to keep a certain level of calm. Again, massive amounts of information comes at us, and that massive amounts of information gives us a certain level of anxiety. And so being able to control that is really, really important. Also, being able to curate learning strategies becomes significantly important as well.
You also talk about having an entrepreneurial mindset. These are things that we're used to thinking of for adults or university or high school age kids, but can you do it as young as elementary?
Sure. When we were young, the question was, what kind of job do you want to have? It was really about focusing on employment and to become a worker. Now, in the 21st century, it's going to be about creating value, asking questions, looking for information to find gaps in that information, and then looking for opportunities and pursuing those opportunities. There are a lot of, for example, people that leverage platforms today. They may leverage YouTube, and they actually create a really good living by leveraging those platforms because they've been able to find that opportunity.
What about strategic and creative thinking? This is the 3rd skill set that you need, that you say they'll need. What does that look like?
There was a study done by Nesta, which is an organization in the UK, and they said that in 2030, the most important things or the most important skills that we're going to need are judgment and decision-making and the fluency of ideas. So having strategies around judgment and decision-making. For example, there was an app, it's called the Eisenhower Matrix, that really talks about how do you prioritize, how do you judge and make decisions on the information that's coming in. And the other is really about the fluency of ideas. How many ideas can you generate? How do you create strategies to generate massive amounts of ideas all the time? If we're going to have a certain amount of automation, then we really need to have ideas to throw at the automation to help us make sense of the world.
Okay, Dwayne, I gotta tell you, when I listen to all of these in concept, they sound really good. And coming from an educator, they sound great. But as a parent who has a kid in a school system, how school is structured now fit with those 3 skill sets that we need? Is this something as parents right now we need to develop on our own, or is this something we're going to see in our education system?
So I think one of the things when people think about education systems, the education systems around the world are working very, very hard to catch up. The speed of technological advance really puts us into this weird sort of mix of how quickly things are happening. So as parents, we have to do certain things around strategy to help our kids. One of the things that is really, really interesting, I thought, with an article by MIT, was really around brainstorming, right? How do you brainstorm massive amounts of ideas consistently over time to increase that fluency of ideas?
And you have something to show us, which I love, by the way, that we're talking about the future of education, but we're going back to the old school whiteboard. This is your brainstorm board.
Right.
How does it work?
So one of the things that I do is maybe come up with a topic or an idea, and I ask my son to come up with as many ideas as possible around that particular topic. And brainstorming consistently. The other thing that we do is we look for top 10 lists. What are top 10 lists about anything, any idea? And the whole idea is to get the creative juices flowing and to just consistently be coming up with all kinds of ideas, crazy ideas that are connected, ideas that are not connected, but to get into the flow of fluency of ideas versus just having the correct answer. Just having the correct answer is important, but the fluency of ideas is going to really, really increase as the machines get to do more and more of the grunt work.
Oh, I could always talk to you for hours and hours, Dwayne, but we are out of time for today. Thanks so much. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you very much, Amory.